And welcome back to the channel. Okay, so let's start off with the first tool, which is going to be this little bad boy right here. It's called a shake and break, and it goes in a air hammer. And it's really useful for taking off screws like Phillips screws that you may find on a rotor, or sometimes they have the hex screws. Now the way this works is you're going to need some other tools to accompany it, like a wrench and a bit of whatever size fastener you're trying to remove. So in this case we have a Phillips number 3. You would put it on there, and I like to grab this end, and it would go on here like this, and then you would put your air hammer on this side, and you could see how, you know, with the force of the air hammer hitting that fastener, and with you also applying rotating force with your wrench, makes it really easy for stubborn fasteners to come off. So it's pretty neat. I've used it a couple of times and it works great. The only problem I did have with it is after you're done using it, whatever socket or bit you have on here, it like gets jammed inside of here. I don't know what is it around here. It's like it hammers into it, then I had to pry it apart. But yeah, it's a neat little tool. And since we're talking about air hammers, let's actually pull out the next tool, which is this little bad boy right here, which I like to call the laxative. It's the Ingersoll Rand 121, and it's small, but it is powerful for its size. It's no big nasty by any means, but it's definitely helped me out. It's miles ahead of the cheap Harbor Freight unit that I had, and this thing just blows it out the water. It's amazing how much it has helped when I'm working on cars. So let's go ahead and set this up real fast just so you can see. So basically when you have the whole thing together, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, so next tool is straight from 1974. Look at that right there. Let's see if we can zoom in and focus. 1974. That doesn't mean it's from 1974, but it definitely looks old school. Look at this packaging. Looks like it's ready to just turn into dust. But this is for side post batteries, and the reason why I was actually like searching the e-web for it is because there's been a few times where I have to pull a battery out of a car and let it trickle charge overnight, right? Now obviously the top post batteries are not an issue, but for the side post ones, I really have nothing to screw into them on the side of the post, obviously, so that I could put my clamps on and trickle charge them overnight. So I was searching the e-web, and I found these, and surprisingly it was a lot more difficult than I expected. There really isn't that many options. This is the only thing I could really find, and you know, it just happened to be from like a private seller. So I don't know if there's other options. I would imagine there are. I can't. But yeah, so you just screw them into the side of the battery. It gives you these posts, and you can put your clamps on them to charge a battery. And next up, all the way from Ching Chong Bing Bong, we have oil filter sockets. Now I already have a set of oil filter sockets, but they're like the cheaper thin metal ones. So these are a little bit more you know, heavy duty, very thick gauge aluminum. They seem a lot more sturdy. Now one downside to this is I ordered the kit and I did not realize that it was actually a 1/2 inch drive, which I did not like at all. Okay, and the one downside I found to this is there's just too many sockets. You know, you're looking for the right one. Honestly, they have numbers on them, but I don't know what any of these numbers mean, okay? I really don't know what they mean. So I find myself, you know, taking one out at a time, trying to see which one fits on the filter, and then you find one that kind of fits, and you're like, no, there's got to be one that's tighter, and you keep searching, going one by one, and then you just come back to the one that you originally thought would work. I just found myself, every time I pull this out, I waste a lot of time trying to find the right socket. So it's like a double-sided sword, with you have a larger variety, but then I find myself wasting more time. Anyways, it's just oil filter sockets. I'm spending way too much time on this. Okay, so let's move on. Alright, and the next tool. Okay, sweet. I thought I was gonna open it upside down. But here we have a oil pan tap set. Now there isn't many situations where I have to use this, but I bought it for one of my customers specifically because he has a Chrysler Concorde, I believe. Took it into one of those quick oil change places, and guess what? The car has an aluminum oil pan, or aluminium, and yeah, they stripped out the threads on his oil pan, and it's so bad that you could literally just you could grab, if I could get this out of here. Okay, that's not gonna come out. Alright, let's forget that. I got Mickey Mouse hands. You could just grab his drain bolt right off of his filter and pull it straight out. No threads engaging at all. It's, if you look in there, it's completely flat. So the last like few times that he's been here to do oil changes, he always wants me to take the plug out and, you know, put a bead of silicone around it and put it in there and basically hold the plug in place until the silicone cures. Not cures, where, you know, it just holds in place. To me, that's a big liability issue. It's not safe. It's not right. You know, a lot of damage could come from that if that bolt were to just fall out. So I told him I would buy this kit in hopes of trying to repair his oil pan. And I figure, okay, so I only need it for his car right now, but I'm sure to come in use in the future. So you can see we have plenty of taps right there. We have replacement bolts of all sizes, and we have a bunch of washers. So I think it's a pretty neat set. But yeah, isn't too much else to say on this. Okay, so next up, we simply have a 27mm wrench. I bought this specifically for doing oil pressure sensors. Sometimes you just can't get a socket where they're located, but you could fit a wrench up there. So I went out and picked this tool up. You know, it says Master Force on it. It's just, doesn't really matter which brand. I went to Minardi and picked it up. Of course, I could use it for many other things that require 27mm, but that was the main reason why I got it, those oil pressure sensors. Moving on to the next tool. Now this is a tool that is like one-time use kind of thing. I bought it for my engine build for setting a valve lash on the Honda engines, and it works for a few other engines as well. But yeah, it's just, unfortunately, it's one of those type of tools that you're gonna buy it and not really use it too much. So let's move on. Alright, and another tool from Ching Chong Bing Bong. And this one only took 3 months to come in. So we have some heat shrink and some solder here. Nothing special, just regular solder. And a variety pack of heat shrink. Now I do have like the bigger rows of heat shrink, but I have only like 2 or 3 different sizes of them. And there's times where I actually don't have the right size, so I bought this variety pack to see which size I'm going to use more often and basically buy a big roll of it. So it's kind of a experiment going on here. But yeah, nothing special. Solder, heat shrink. Let's move on. Boom! I bet you didn't see this coming. It's just one of those rolling chair things from AutoZone. Honestly, I had $20 on my rewards card to waste at AutoZone, and I really could not find anything. And I've never had one of these, so I was like, yeah, you know, I'll give it a try. It works, you know. I'm always not, this way I'm not always on my knees or settle down internet. So I'm not always on my knees or sitting down on my legs, you know, and really just wearing myself out. So it does help. I'm not using it as often as I thought, but I think that's mainly because the top right here is just hard plastic. So like, let's be realistic, if you're sitting on this for a little while, it's just gonna hurt your ass, so hurt your buttocks. But yeah, so maybe that's the reason why I don't use it as often. I also find it to be just in the way most of the time, so maybe I'll upgrade to one of those nice ones that actually have a cushion top. Oh, we'll see. But $20 rewards card, picked it up. Alright, so next up, just to try to get this thing moving a little bit faster, I just picked up these wires right here. It's a 3-piece set. Basically, you put the fuse in there, and you know, I would obviously cut these. I haven't used them yet, but I'm planning on cutting them here and then like opening up a mini fuse or something, like basically cutting it, destroying it, and then soldering the 2 posts from the mini fuse at the end of these wires right here that, you know, after I cut it. So basically I could put them in a fuse box. It could be a fuse link, and I could put my amp clamp on it and check current. So it's the reason why I bought these. I was gonna make my own, but then I realized it was a lot more difficult to try to come up with my own system to hold fuses. So these are like dirt cheap on eBay. Next thing, these crimp style clamps. I've never really liked the screw style. I'm not sure what they're called. I'm sure they have a name. But I bought this little variety pack of these. You can see these are the ones you just put over hoses and you basically crimp them, and that's how they tighten down, and you pretty much have to destroy them to remove them. But I bought this small pack here just to give it a shot, see how they work out, see how I like them, and if they work out well, I'll buy more. Next up, we have a tool from Astro. It's a Subaru ball joint puller, and I recently saw this on South Main Auto's channel. You know, Erico was using this. And to be honest with you, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I've never done one of these Subaru ball joints, okay? But based off of what I see on YouTube, it looks like a job I would not want to do without a tool like this. So I kind of just bought it to not run into those problems that I've seen other people in their videos have when they're trying to remove these ball joints off of these Subarus. So it's kind of like, buy it now just so I don't have the headache in the future. And surprisingly, it's very affordable. I was actually shocked to see how inexpensive it was, but it looks like a well-made tool, and from Astro you always know you're gonna get a good tool. So looks good, and I can't wait to use this. And next up, we have some tools from AES Wave. Here we have the Wise Probe. I saw it and I thought it was pretty neat, even though it's extremely basic, and if you ask me, it's kind of overpriced for what it is. But it is what it is. So basically you would put this on your coil, you know, on coil over plug designs, or you could even use it on distributor plugs or wires. But basically you put this right on top of the coil, and you can pick up a waveform. Now obviously you cannot just use this tool alone. You're going to need some sort of scope. I think it works with all kinds of scopes, so you're just gonna need a scope in general to use it. You put it on a coil and it'll let you pick up a waveform, and to me it's a quick way of finding which coil is bad. Pretty simple, right? Or checking ignition wires and things like that. Now here's another thing. When you buy this tool, it's just a bare tool, okay? You're going to need the BNC to BNC adapter from AES Wave. So you're gonna have to purchase this separate, which kind of sucks. I mean, at least they're giving you options, because I'm sure there's people who already have these cables, so it eliminates them having to buy them, and that way they could buy just a tool alone. But I don't know, I just keep coming back to how expensive this simple thing is, that I think for the price that it costs, you know, these should be included. But it is what it is, and so far it seems to be working pretty cool, and I like it. I think it's pretty neat. So let's move on. Next up, we have the Gearwrench pinless X-Core. X gon' give it to you. That's my impersonation of DMX. Alright, so Here's some new swivel sockets from Gearwrench, and from what I see online, I don't know who copied who or whatever, but apparently this is a macro design, so it doesn't have a pin in here like a traditional swivel socket. I'm sure it's not gonna pick up. So there's no pin. It's just like this weird design, what they call X-core, and for obvious reasons. But as you can see, they are brand new. I have not had a chance to use them, even though I've had them for a while, and it's because I was saving it for this, you know. And another reason is I'm thinking of doing a review on them, but obviously I can't review them if I haven't used them. So I'm thinking of reviewing them. We'll see. But I'm pretty interested in this. It's an interesting design. And honestly, I have a set of swivel sockets, but they're cheap ones. I got them from Minardi a while ago, and it did not take long for them. They're not broken, but they're definitely like they're not smooth on their rotation. They are jammed up. I mean, to the point where like I would have to lay one of them down and hit it with a hammer just to, you know, free it up from its lock position. So I'm not saying that's the design flaw of the pinned ones. It's just the cheap ones that I happen to have. Now here's the problem though. I want to do a review on these, but the only 3/8 impact gun that I have is my stubby 3/8 Milwaukee impact gun, and that gun does not have a lot of power to begin with. I think it's only like 250 pound-feet of torque, so that's not a lot of power. So when I go to review these, it's the only impact I could really use on them, and that might kind of skew my my thoughts on this, because I'm not really putting that much power through them. So if I say, oh yeah, they lasted me 8 years and I've never broken one and blah blah blah, well, it's because the gun that I'm using is actually really weak as far as the power that it puts out. So I'm sure it would be a different story if I'm using a gun on them that has, you know, 1,000 pound-feet of torque. But they look really interesting, and I hope to use these, and I hope they last long, because they're not cheap. Okay, I know the big name brand ones cost a lot more than this, like way more than this. But honestly, when it comes down to sockets, I don't spend a lot of money. So this is probably the most expensive socket set I've had to buy to date. So, but let's move on. Lug nut sockets. I've always just used regular impact sockets for removing lug nuts. But, you know, the nice thing about these is they do protect the rims, which, let's be honest, the cars I work on over here, they're not really too concerned with that. But once in a while, I'll get a car that's worth 500 bucks with $2,000 rims on it, you know, so you need to protect the rim. So that's nice. Another thing I found is sometimes these big aftermarket rims, they don't give you a lot of space for a lug nut. So once a lug nut is in there, you're going to find that you cannot fit a regular impact socket in, you know, the groove where the lug nut's going to go. It just doesn't fit. So once you pull the sleeve off, you can see this is an extremely thin walled socket. So that's another reason right there. So number one, it protects rims. Number two, if you take the sleeve off, you have very thin walled sockets that could get into tight areas. Number three, has all the main sizes you're gonna need for lug nuts. Okay, and it is now a different day. I had to wait for some of my other tools to come in. Now, I was recently using one of these tools on my air hammer to do a brake job, and it actually just snapped. I'll put the video in right now so you can see what happened. Now I know what you're saying. Stop wasting money on this wing stuff and just buy a quality tool. And you're right, I am going to do that. I'm actually going to look into buying like a snap-on version of one of these, because I really do need it to work, and it just really sucks when things break. Now the one that broke on me in that video was the only one I had of this type. So since I needed another set right away, I just went on Amazon and found this set right here. And with next day delivery, it's kind of hard to beat. So this is more like a temporary fix, you know, because I need the tool right away. But I am going to look into a quality tool as far as one of these so they don't break on me again. And yeah, so nothing special here. It just came different assortment sizes, which I really don't care for some of these. Like I said, temporary. Let's move on to the next tools. Okay, so next up I have this Gearwrench prying tool. So let's go ahead and open it up real fast. So here it is. And no, I did not just buy these. I've been having these for years. They're Snap-on. They're just here as an example, basically. I've been having these for years and I use them daily, especially when I worked in the body shop. You cannot go a day without using these in a body shop. So I really like these. These are nice tools. I've pried on them, just used them for all kinds of things, used and abused, and I've never broken one of them. The handle is arguably the best handle you could get on a tool. I mean, it's just really nice and solid. You can tell it's a quality tool. But Snap-on does make a longer version of these, and it's what I was looking for, but I did not want to pay Snap-on money because I learned my lesson with Snap-on and those tool trucks. It's just, they are robbing you. So I learned a while ago to don't invest too heavily in it. You know, only buy what you need. For example, I was just talking about the piece for the air hammer. I'm going to try to get it through Snap-on, but for the most part, I don't deal with expensive name brand tools like that anymore because it's just crazy overpriced. So sure, it would have been nice to have this tool right here through Snap-on, but I wasn't going to pay the money. So we have a Gearwrench tool right here, and the handle, it's nothing special. Just a typical handle. Definitely does not feel as nice as the Snap-on one, but I could live with that. I don't know how I feel about the main shaft right here being squared off like that. See, I don't know how well it's gonna pick up, but it is not round. See, these are round. This is a square. Cause it just reminds me of more of just like a regular prying tool. I'm sure it's not a big deal. Another thing here is you can see how Snap-on has like two different designs on the heads right here, whereas it seems like Gearwrench tried to do two different sizes in one. It's larger right on top, and then it just kind of gets narrow as it comes more towards the base right there. It gets smaller. So obviously I just opened it and I want to see how well it works out, but basically I just needed something to reach those real hard to reach plastic retainers and fasteners and things like that. So for its price, I think it's a good buy. Usually it's like plastic things you're prying on, so you know, I doubt this is ever gonna break. But let's move on to our final tool. And here it is from Auto Body Now. It's a 15-piece metric crowfoot wrench set. What I really like about this is right off the bat, it comes in a really nice case. You can see it actually has hinges on the back. It's none of that plastic folding crap. The latches up here, real nice quality. And yeah, the box just seems nice and sturdy. I really like that. Nothing here, just kind of showing its contents inside its little paper. Okay, so this is a metric set, and it's really nice because it goes from 8mm all the way up to 24mm. I don't know if it skipped any sizes. Let's see. Okay, so we're missing 20, but that's not bad. Oh, and 23. Okay, so 15-piece set, and we're missing sizes 20 and 23, which honestly I don't think you're gonna come across those sizes. It's probably why they're not included. But this is a really nice set. I mean, you could just tell it is quality. The finish on these things are just super nice. All the way around, everything looks well made. Now all of these smaller sizes are all 3/8 drive, and then the final three are 1/2" drive. But yeah, really nice set here. Now you saw my previous video I picked up this set because I needed to get some lines off of an ABS module when I was replacing brake lines, and I just didn't have the right tool for the job, and I had to resort to cutting the line with the Dremel, which I wasn't really proud of that, but I did what I had to do to get the job done. But after that, I ordered this set because of that, and now I won't have to do something like that in the future because I'll have this tool, and I'm really happy with it. It looks very well made. Alright, so it's actually a different day, and I forgot about this tool, so I'm just gonna throw it in at the end here. This really is last tool, and I gotta make this quick because my daughter is here lurking around. Just standing there like a creeper watching me make a video. Alright, so it's a SK oil pressure sensor socket. It's actually made for two different sizes. It's made for 1 inch and 1 inch and 1/16. And if you look inside of here, you could actually see like the little lip inside of there that's made for two different size sensors. So it's pretty neat. I actually bought this off of eBay used, so I'm not against buying used tools, especially something like this, just a socket. So boom, that's the last tool. So that's it for this tool haul. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and like always, thanks for watching.